I'll start with English, and then I'll say briefly in Spanish, and then I'll answer any questions that we may have. You guys ready?
Palston Bend. Palston Bend.
Everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay. Ed Gonzalez, Harris County Sheriff, joined here by different members of our command staff as well as other leadership from the Harris County Sheriff's Office. This evening, Harris County Sheriff's Office deputies from our District 1 patrol area received a call for service. It was an in-progress call indicating that a male was bleeding profusely, was apparently stabbing himself, was interfering or impeding some of the traffic in the neighborhood, that he was rubbing some of the blood onto vehicles and just acting very erratic. That call was received at approximately 7:17 p.m. Our first units arrived on scene within 2 minutes at 7:19 p.m. approximately. At that point, they encountered the individual. He was on the street, a public roadway. There were at least two other bystanders in near proximity. The male, at that point, we believe still was carrying a weapon in his hand, and he also was carrying a large cross, appears to be made out of wood perhaps, approximately 3 feet by 2 feet in width. Over his head. He was kind of mumbling or saying some things. Our deputies immediately began giving verbal commands to no avail. It didn't appear to resonate with him. One of our deputies did request a less lethal option, which is a 40 millimeter option that we now have. But within 2 minutes of arriving on scene at approximately 7:21 p.m., the male had already attempted to advance towards the deputy as he was giving commands. He then came a second time, advancing much quicker at that point, and that's when our one deputy, fired several shots, striking the male, and the male was subsequently pronounced deceased on scene. At the same time, one of the other units that was here on scene simultaneously, it appears, also deployed his taser, but it seemed to be at the same time that shots were fired as well. What we know at this point is that the male, we believe, to either be a Hispanic or white male perhaps, approximately 59 years of age. He is a known resident in this community. We're still trying to determine exactly his home address here. But if it's the individual that we believe, and based on some witness accounts, there's been a long history of mental health calls at his residence. Here around April, just within this month, one witness indicated that the male's condition has been deteriorating even worse, but there's been dozens upon dozens of calls since last year to this year already with different calls of service appearing to be some type of mental health nexus. We'll have to corroborate all that information, but that's a little bit of what we have. Our condolences go out to the victim's family. If there was a mental health nexus, or regardless, the loss of life is always sad under any circumstance. It's something that weighs on us a lot. We have a lot of programming when it comes to dealing with mental health, and it's something that law enforcement continues to grapple with and encounter on a daily basis. It's something that we see on a daily basis, and so it's unfortunate that individuals can deteriorate and pose a danger to themselves or potentially to others. Our deputy had to act very quickly. Like I said, from the time it arrived, it was just a matter of minutes. There wasn't enough time to get that less lethal option here, and he made a decision that he felt was the best one in safety of himself and potentially others that were in the area. This case will be investigated by our homicide and crime scene investigators. The DA's office will be responding as well, and the deputy that discharged his weapon, I don't know how many years he's been on, but he's been on several years with us. He's a seasoned veteran. He'll be placed on critical incident administrative leave, which is standard protocol, and most likely the other one that deployed his taser, just out of precaution, will also be placed on similar leave. There'll be an extensive investigation, And again, all of this is preliminary until we have an opportunity to talk to witnesses, look for any video and all of that. So I always like to preface, just say we're just trying to share with you the basic information that we have. That's the information we have right now. Briefly in Spanish, esta noche recibimos una llamada a este local de que un hombre se estaba apuñalando él mismo, que estaba armado con un cuchillo. Nuestros oficiales llegaron aquí muy rápido, en un medio de 2 minutos llegaron aquí a la escena, encontraron un hombre. Es determinado que ese hombre es aproximadamente de 59 años de edad. Estaba cargando una cruz hecha como de madera, es como de 3 pies por 2 pies ancha. Sí está media grande y la estaba cargando. En varias ocasiones comenzó a moverse más cerca a los oficiales. Los oficiales estaban dando órdenes que dara pausa, pero el hombre seguía adelante y seguía progresando. La última vez sí le dio con más fuerza para llegar como hacia el oficial, y el oficial disparó varias veces y le disparó y el hombre murió aquí en la escena. Nuestras oraciones están con la familia. Sabemos que son situaciones muy difíciles, y también con nuestros oficiales que tienen que actuar en una manera muy rápida. Llegaron aquí rápida para proteger a la comunidad, y pues lamentablemente que este fue lo que pasó, pero va a ser una investigación muy extensa de parte de nosotros, la oficina de la Fiscalía, y ellos van a estar puestos en una temporada administrativa mientras que haga una investigación, y podemos estar bien de su bienestar de los oficiales. Any questions?
Do you know what came first? Was it the gunshot or the taser, or was it kind of like a simultaneous?
It seemed like it was simultaneous, because we had at that point 2 deputies on scene, I believe, kind of standing in pretty close proximity. There was a lot happening. Like I said, it was still daylight. There were at least 2 bystanders. There was a knife involved. The knife eventually was on the ground. We don't know the timing of when that knife was thrown, but it was initially reported by citizens. We received multiple calls for service out here, all around the same time regarding his behavior, and it happened very quickly. Arrival was within 2 minutes, and within, I think, 2 minutes, shots were fired, gave him verbal commands. At that point upon arrival, I mean, in hindsight, we could then include a lot more information. When they're arriving, it's just more limited information. It's chaotic. There's bystanders, their own safety, and he made a split-second decision.
You mentioned a least lethal.
Less lethal weapon,
Yeah,
40 millimeter. Yeah, Assistant Chief Diaz, I know y'all worked with it. Can you speak a little bit about when we deployed that program?
Sure. The 40 millimeter.
Identify your name.
Assistant Chief Tommy Diaz. The 40 millimeter is a platform that shoots like a beanbag at a high rate, which usually kind of incapacitates the subject. It's a way to subdue someone without having to use a higher use of force weapon. So we've recently deployed that, so we're still getting more additional of those. So we do have to call for someone with that in these types of scenes. So we did request that, and one we
Have
just did get.
you been able to use it?
Absolutely.
Before?
Yes, we have successfully many times.
We want to equip our deputies with as many tools as we possibly can, but these situations are very fluid and dynamic. They could only use what they have at the moment. They were attempting to do that, but this happened pretty quickly. It seemed like, based on the number of calls, the way he was acting was already very concerning and erratic to the community. That's why we received multiple calls. And then, again, when our deputies arrived, they were trying to just contain it. It was very kind of chaotic. It was all in the open roadway. And there were, again, weapons involved, both the knife initially, and then also that blunt object that appears to be maybe a 3-foot by 2-foot wooden type heavy cross that he was carrying, and he was bleeding all over profusely. We told he was also dropping some of the blood into like a container that he was carrying with him. So there was a lot happening.
And those were self-inflicted.
We believe. Yeah. So that's what was reported to us as we were arriving. When we arrived, it appears he was already covered in blood, and they didn't get a chance to really get too far into it before this occurred.
So you guys never actually got a chance to deploy the beanbag?
No, we requested it, but it happened within 2 minutes of their arrival. They were here pretty quickly, and they didn't arrive.
Sir, did you say you live here?
He lives. We believe he lives in one of the residences here in the neighborhood.
Alone or family?
We don't know. There may be a wife involved as well, but we don't know. We're trying to make that determination. And we did do a cursory check of one of the residents where we believe he resides at, just to make sure no one else was wounded or deceased or anything like that. We didn't find anything from that initial check, but we'll probably obtain a search warrant now and do a more thorough check.
The calls that you've had in the past, were they kind of similar things? Man acting erratic, and what were there other calls like that you've had about it?
Yes, Lieutenant Santos, I know you reviewed it real quickly. You want to just identify your name and just the general.
Lieutenant Michael Santos. A lot of them where he's in crisis, kind of a little bit paranoid, wants us to check his house, check his vehicles. We've come out here several times and check it for him, but we never find anything, so he's kind of in crisis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Raining on it.